It is outrageous. I am embarrassed for those Democrats who voted to censure their own colleague, who voted against free speech. It is an embarrassment.
That was Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Representative Pramila Jayapal sticking up for her colleague, Representative Rashida Tlaib. Members of her own party voted to censure her, and there's a lot of rhetoric being thrown about. So let's listen to Representative Tlaib herself.
I'm the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, Mr. Chair, and my perspective is needed here now more than ever. I will not be silenced, and I will not let you distort my words. Like me, Mr. Chair, they don't believe the answer to war crimes is more war crimes. The refusal of Congress and the administration to acknowledge Palestinian lives is chipping away at my soul. Over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed. Majority were children. My criticism has always been of the Israeli government and Netanyahu's actions. It is important to separate people and governments, Mr. Chair. No government is beyond criticism. The idea that criticizing the government of Israel is anti-Semitic sets a very dangerous precedent, and it's being used to silence diverse voices speaking up for human rights across our nation. Mr. Chair, do you know what it's like to fear rising hate crimes, to know how Islamophobia and anti-Semitism makes us all less safe, and worry that your own child might suffer the horrors that 6-year-old Wadia did in Illinois? I can't believe I have to say this, but Palestinian people are not disposable.
The only Palestinian representative in Congress. Agreement with her is not necessary to point out how censuring Tlaib distracts from what Congress should be working on, stopping the violence and working towards a constructive solution. But in order to do that, there has to be respect for those who disagree with some or perhaps all of President Biden's position on the crisis. Agreement is also not necessary to declare that Tlaib is uniquely situated in Congress. Being the only Palestinian, she is qualified to speak out on the crisis. Criticism of the state of Israel is not the same as anti-Semitism. We can acknowledge that it's on the rise, it's wrong, it's hateful, it must stop without, turning any disagreement about the tactics of Prime Minister Netanyahu into hate speech. Representative Tlaib is not always right. She is not always diplomatic, but she is passionate. That part is certainly evident as she struggled through her statement to her colleagues.
We are human beings, just like anyone else. My city, my grandmother, like all Palestinians, just wants to live her life with freedom and human dignity we all deserve. Speaking up to save lives, Mr. Chair, no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, should not be controversial in this chamber. The cries of the Palestinian and Israeli children sound no different to me. Why? What I don't understand is why the cries of Palestinians sound different to you all. I am inspired by the courageous survivors in Israel who have lost loved ones, yet are calling for a ceasefire and the end to violence. I am grateful to the people in the streets for the peace movement, with countless Jewish Americans across the country standing up and lovingly saying, "Not in our name." We will continue to call for a ceasefire, Mr. Chair, for the immediate delivery of critical humanitarian aid to Gaza, for the release of all hostages and those arbitrarily detained, and for every American to come home. We will continue to work for a real lasting peace that upholds human rights and dignity of all people, and centers in peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians, and censures no one, and ensures that no person, no child has to suffer or live in fear of violence. 71% of Michigan Democrats support a ceasefire. So you can try to censure me, but you can't silence their voices. I urge my colleagues to join with the majority of Americans and support a ceasefire now to save as many lives as possible.
Polling now shows most Americans do believe the Biden administration should call for a ceasefire. Some are stronger in their beliefs than others, but we are now talking about a majority. Of course, that does not mean elected leaders intend to go along with it, and there are varying reasons that you can probably think of for that. And yes, some do include bigotry. Representative Jayapal wasn't the only one to call out fellow Democrats for, in her view, abandoning one of their own.
It is glaring hypocrisy when you have Republicans on the other side of the aisle trying to create definitions and say Rashida wants to annihilate people, when Max Miller himself went on TV and said we're turning Gaza into a parking lot and we want to annihilate Palestinians. Nobody condemned him on that side of the aisle. What is true here is that every single one of them has not acknowledged the fact that Palestinians are dying in the tens of thousands, but will continue to say it is us who are not acknowledging humanity.
This body needs empathy and compassion for all people, not just people that look like the majority of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And maybe because of your lack of diversity, you lack the cognitive and emotional ability to recognize diverse opinions when they speak truth to power. And you absolutely need to open up your mind to other people and other experiences, especially when they are Muslim and when they are women and when they are people of color. You had a member of your party call my colleague a terrorist, and you didn't censor her.
I don't tell people what to think, but I will comment on this. It is incredibly rich for the Republican Party to accuse progressives of being anti-Semitic, perpetuating hate, but they did it anyway. As the polling shifts and the crisis drags on, hostages still not home, and a lot more bloodshed, perhaps we will finally at least reach a diplomatic solution. But then again, we've been down that road before many times, and it seems the lack of trust and perhaps personal ego always gets in the way. What's lost? Innocent people wiped out as the fighting goes on. The United States government picks a side, and of course, all of us pay for it.